There's a quiet war going on inside every one of us. It doesn't show on your face, it doesn't post selfies, but it shapes your future more than anything else. It's the battle to control four things: your mouth, mind, mood, and money. Those who win this internal war, they don't just survive, they thrive. And those who lose, they live in cycles of regret. So today, let's break this down. Let's talk about how to take back control, one key at a time. Control your mouth. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's one of the hardest things to do, especially when emotions rise, when you feel disrespected, or when the urge to win an argument overtakes the desire to understand. Your mouth, your words, can be your greatest tool or your most dangerous weapon. Every conversation is a choice, connection or collision. And the truly remarkable part, most people are unaware of the power they wield with every syllable. Think of the last time someone said something that stung. Not because it was loud or laced with profanity, but because it was sharp, dismissive, or cold. Maybe it was a joke at your expense that made everyone laugh except you. Maybe it was a backhanded compliment that left you questioning your worth. Maybe it was silence when you needed affirmation the most. Words don't need to shout to cut deep. They just need to be thoughtless. Research from Harvard Business Review confirms what we already feel deep down. Negative interactions carry 5 times the weight of positive ones. That means for every careless or hurtful word we say, it takes 5 acts of kindness to even out the emotional scale. So what happens in our homes, our workplaces, our friendships, when we're casual with criticism but stingy with affirmation? We erode trust. We chip away at safety. We replace peace with tension. In the moments when we don't filter our mouths, when we react instead of respond, we often tell ourselves we're just being honest. But honesty without empathy is cruelty in disguise. Being honest doesn't give us permission to be reckless. We forget that people aren't just hearing what we say, they're absorbing it. Words don't bounce off people, they soak in, they become beliefs. They become memories, they become fears. Now, think of a time when someone said something that lifted you. Could have been just a sentence, maybe even a single word, but it changed the way you walked into your day. Maybe someone told you they believed in you before a big presentation. Maybe a teacher pulled you aside and said, "You've got potential." Maybe a friend said, "I see you, I'm proud of you." Those moments matter. And they don't happen by accident. They happen when someone chooses to use their words not as a weapon, but as a bridge. If you want to lead, really lead, don't start by speaking louder, start by listening better. There's a deep strength in restraint. Leaders who control their mouths know that power isn't in domination, it's in understanding. People follow those who make them feel heard, valued, and safe, not those who bark commands, interrupt others, or speak just to fill silence. A wise leader learns to pause before responding, to ask before assuming, and to build before criticizing. And in our homes, where love should be the loudest voice, the tone we use can set the emotional temperature. You want peace in your family? Start with a softness in your words, not weakness, softness. There's nothing weak about speaking with care. In fact, it takes far more strength to be gentle in frustration than it does to lash out. Raising your voice doesn't raise your authority, it just raises the walls people build to protect themselves from you. What's tragic is how often we damage the people we care about the most simply because we're comfortable. We say things to our partners, our kids, our siblings that we'd never say to a stranger. We justify our sharpness with, well, they know I love them. But love isn't just what you feel, it's what you show. And the mouth is often where that love is tested most. When someone leaves a room after talking to you, how do they feel? Empowered or diminished, encouraged or deflated, safe or walking on eggshells? Because at the end of the day, people rarely remember the exact words we said, but they remember how we made them feel. And the way we speak has a ripple effect far beyond that moment. One sarcastic comment can echo in someone's head for years. One word of belief can change the entire course of their life. Imagine a world where people spoke not just to express, but to uplift. Where every interaction became an opportunity to build instead of break. Where conflict wasn't fueled by ego, but diffused by compassion. That world begins with each of us. It begins every time we choose to pause, to breathe, and to speak with intention. The truth is, you never know what someone is carrying. Your words might be the only kind thing they hear all day, or the final blow after 100 wounds. Choose wisely, because the cost of careless speech is too high, and the return on thoughtful communication is priceless. There's a story of a man who carried a bag of feathers through a village. releasing one at each doorstep as he spoke rumors about his neighbor. Later, realizing the damage he'd done, he tried to collect all the feathers. But the wind had scattered them far and wide. That's the nature of words. Once released, they can't be undone. You can apologize, yes, but the impact lingers. So before you speak, ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? These aren't restrictions, they're filters. They help ensure that what we say creates value instead of harm. They remind us that words are not just sounds. They are seeds. What we plant will grow, for better or worse. Speak in a way that people want to lean in, not step back. Let your words be a source of warmth in a cold world, a light in someone's darkness, a bridge over troubled waters, because at the heart of it all, control over your mouth isn't about censorship, it's about consciousness. It's not about being silent, it's about being strategic. It's not about fear, it's about love. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. With time, you'll start to feel the difference between speaking to be heard and speaking to heal. You'll find the courage to hold your tongue when anger flares and the humility to lift others when pride tempts you to tear them down. You'll discover that controlling your mouth isn't a loss of freedom. It's the path to deeper respect, richer relationships, and lasting influence. Because words can build or burn. And every time you open your mouth, you get to choose which one you'll do. Most people move through life as passengers in their own minds, unaware that they've handed over the wheel to fear, distraction, and negativity. They wake up already overwhelmed, consumed by thoughts they didn't choose. Worries gain momentum before they even have their coffee. A single doubt spirals into catastrophe, and by midday, they've played out every worst-case scenario in their heads, not because those things are real, but because their minds ran wild without guidance. That's not insight. That's not preparedness. That's chaos. And yet it's become normal. But just because something is common doesn't make it right. The truth is, the human brain wasn't designed to make us happy. It was designed to keep us alive. It's a survival tool programmed over thousands of years to notice danger before opportunity, to anticipate failure before success. It's always scanning the horizon for a threat, real or imagined. That's why we fixate on what might go wrong more than what could go right. And if we leave the mind unchecked, if we let it run on autopilot, we don't just live in fear. We start building our lives around it, and we start preparing for disaster instead of preparing for possibility. But here's the crucial insight. You are not your mind. You are the one behind the thoughts. You are the observer, the captain, the author of the story. The brain might provide the dialogue, but you get to decide which lines stay in the script. Most people don't realize they can choose their thoughts, but you can, you must. Because every thought is a seed, and over time, those seeds grow into beliefs. Those beliefs shape your actions, and your actions shape your reality. So when you choose a thought, you're not just choosing what you feel in the moment, you're choosing the future you're walking toward. So what are you planting? Imagine for a moment you treated your thoughts the same way you treat your clothes. You wouldn't just grab anything off the floor and throw it on. You dress with purpose depending on where you're going. So why do we wake up and put on thoughts of worry, self-doubt, and failure without a second glance? Start choosing your thoughts with the same care. Pick ones that serve you, thoughts that empower you, thoughts that prepare you for the life you actually want to live. And just like dressing for the weather, there's preparation involved. You don't develop mental strength by accident. You train for it. You work at it. Feed your mind with ideas that challenge your comfort zone. Read books that expand your thinking, not just confirm it. Listen to voices that make you uncomfortable in the best way. Voices that stretch you, that make you question what you thought was true. Surround yourself with people who dream bigger than you, who don't laugh at your goals but ask, what's your next step? People who don't dwell on problems but speak in possibilities. Because the conversations you have every day are shaping your perspective. And if you spend too much time in rooms where everything is a problem, you'll forget what solutions even sound like. And then there's gratitude. Not the Instagram version, the quiet, consistent practice of noticing what's good even when everything feels hard. Gratitude isn't about denying pain. It's about refusing to let pain have the final word. When your brain tells you everything is falling apart, gratitude reminds you what's still holding together. A Navy SEAL once said, "We don't rise to the occasion, we fall to the level of our training." That truth applies far beyond the battlefield. It applies in business, in relationships, in adversity. When pressure hits, when fear shows up, you won't suddenly become calm and focused. You will fall to the level of the habits you built when no one was watching. Your mindset in those moments will be a reflection of every decision you made beforehand. Every time you chose discipline over distraction, every time you recentered instead of reacting, every time you reminded yourself, this thought is not me. I get to choose differently. Training your mind isn't about avoiding hard moments, it's about being ready for them. You build that readiness day by day, choice by choice. You build it by practicing stillness when your instinct is to rush, by practicing curiosity when your instinct is to judge, by choosing courage when your instinct is to hide. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about understanding that even in darkness, you have the power to bring light, that even when fear whispers, you can speak louder, that even when the old wiring of your brain tries to drag you backward, you can rewrite the code, because the future doesn't begin tomorrow. It begins with your next thought. And then the one after that, and then the one after that. The power isn't in the thought itself, it's in the pattern. Train your mind to return to hope. Train it to expect resilience. Train it to find strength, even when there's no evidence for it yet. And over time, you won't just think differently, you'll be different. Your mind is your most powerful asset or your most dangerous enemy. And it doesn't change by accident. It changes through intention, through discipline, through repetition, through choosing again and again the thoughts that lead you toward the life you were meant to live. Every day you have a choice to be ruled by your mind or to rule it. Choose wisely, because your future is listening and it's being written one thought at a time. Most people move through life believing their emotions are in control. They wake up irritated and so the day is doomed. Someone cuts them off in traffic and suddenly it's a bad day. A single email ruins the next 5 hours. But here's a fundamental truth. Emotions are not dictators. They're messengers. Their job is to deliver a signal, not to hijack the whole system. The moment we understand this, we begin to reclaim the power we've always had but often forgot was ours. The power to respond instead of react. We are emotional creatures. That's not a flaw. It's a feature of being human. We laugh, we cry, we rage, we hope. Emotions are what give life texture, color, and meaning. But there's a difference between experiencing emotions and being ruled by them. There's a difference between honoring what you feel and allowing it to sabotage what you value. Think about anger. It's a powerful emotion, and it shows up for a reason, maybe because something felt unfair, or you felt unseen, or you needed to protect someone. That message is important, but acting from that anger without translation, that's dangerous. That's when you say the thing you didn't mean or break the trust you meant to build. The same goes for sadness. It's a signal you've lost something meaningful, but staying in sadness too long can cloud your perception and steal your momentum. Emotional discipline doesn't mean denial. It doesn't mean pretending you're fine when you're breaking inside. It doesn't mean pushing your feelings down and hoping they disappear. It means becoming fluent in your emotional language. It means learning to read the message before reacting to the tone. Imagine emotions as guests at your dinner table. Some come in loud, some are quiet, some are rude, some are kind. But you're the host. You get to decide who stays, who leaves, and who gets a seat of influence. When you realize this, you don't fear your emotions anymore. You listen to them, you learn from them, but you don't let them lead your life. One of the most effective leaders I know begins every team meeting with 2 minutes of silence, not meditation, not a breathing exercise, just quiet. Everyone puts their phones down, no typing, no whispering, just 2 minutes of intentional stillness. The first time he tried it, the room was awkward. People shifted in their chairs, some glanced at their watches. But by the third or fourth meeting, something started to change. The team became more grounded, discussions became more thoughtful, people listened more, reacted less. What changed wasn't the workload or the environment. it was the mood. And that shifted everything. When we create space to feel without reacting, we create freedom. And from that freedom comes power. Think about the last time you were overwhelmed. Maybe your inbox was full, deadlines were crashing down, your phone wouldn't stop buzzing, you felt like the world was closing in. In that moment, the natural instinct is to react, to lash out, to retreat, to shut down. But what if, instead of doing that, you paused? What if you asked, what's underneath this feeling? Is it fear of failure? Is it a need for help that hasn't been voiced? Is the pressure to prove something? So many of our strongest emotional reactions are masks for deeper needs. A short temper may mask the fear of being unappreciated. Withdrawal may mask the fear of rejection. Irritation may mask exhaustion. But when we treat the mood as the final answer instead of the entry point, we miss the opportunity to grow. There's a reason the best decision makers in high-stakes environments are trained to control their breathing. Navy SEALs, fighter pilots, trauma surgeons, they all understand this. When your physiology is calm, your clarity increases. When your body is in control, your brain catches up. That pause, the breath, the stillness isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's what allows you to respond with precision instead of react with panic. But let's be honest. Emotional discipline is not always glamorous. It's not the fiery speech. It's not the grand gesture. Sometimes it looks like walking away from an argument you know you could win, but doesn't need to be fought. Sometimes it's holding back a sarcastic comment. Sometimes it's saying, I need a moment, instead of pretending you're fine. These small acts are what build the muscle of emotional fluency. In today's world, mood is often mistaken for identity. I'm just an angry person. I'm always anxious. I'm too sensitive. These labels become cages we build for ourselves. But your mood is not who you are, it's what you're feeling. And feelings change. Identity, when rooted in reaction, becomes brittle. But when rooted in awareness, it becomes resilient. There is immense power in recognizing your emotional patterns. What triggers your anger? What softens your fear? What restores your calm? These aren't just psychological questions, they're practical ones. Because when you understand the terrain of your emotional landscape, you stop being surprised by it. You start preparing for it. You can't predict every emotional storm, but you can build a lighthouse strong enough to withstand it. That lighthouse is built through practice, through pausing before you speak, through journaling at the end of a hard day, through surrounding yourself with people who model emotional strength, not just emotional intensity, through asking for help when your mind becomes a maze. Emotional strength isn't loud, it's not flashy, it's not about having a stone-cold face or a steel-trap heart. It's about grace. Grace for yourself, grace for others, grace in the middle of chaos. Grace that says, I will not let this feeling decide my future. When you master your mood, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You become a steward of your energy. You walk into meetings with calm, not chaos. You respond to conflict with curiosity, not combustion. You build relationships that are safe, not sharp. You start to notice when someone else is off, not to criticize, but to care. And in doing so, you become the kind of person people trust, not because you're always happy, but because you're always grounded, the kind of leader who can be the calm in the storm, the kind of friend who listens before fixing, the kind of human who leads not just with intellect, but with emotional wisdom. That's what mastering your mood gives you, not just peace of mind, but peace of presence. And when your presence brings calm to others, that's not just emotional control, that's emotional leadership. And the world needs more of that, now more than ever. Control your money or your money will control you. This isn't about greed or gain. It's about freedom. It's about the ability to wake up in the morning and choose. The ability to walk away from what doesn't serve you. The power to say yes, not because you're desperate, but because you're prepared. Most people think of money in terms of arithmetic, what you earn, what you spend, what you owe. But money isn't just about numbers. It's about meaning, it's about choices. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of life you want. Every dollar you save is a step toward the future you're building. And every dollar you waste is a compromise, a delay, a detour from the life you say you want. When you look at someone's bank account, you're not just seeing transactions. You're seeing priorities. You're seeing patterns. You're seeing a story unfold, what matters, what's ignored, what's urgent, and what's not. And that's why controlling your money starts with awareness. Not obsession, not fear, but awareness. Every great journey starts with a map. If you don't know where your money's going, how can you ever expect it to take you where you want to be? Too many people believe that wealth is only for the lucky or the high earners. But real wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how well you manage what you make. I once met a man who worked as a janitor for over 40 years. Humble job, modest pay, nothing flashy. He never made more than $40,000, 0 cents a year. He never drove a new car. He never took out debt. But when he passed away, his estate revealed over $8 million, 0 cents in savings and investments. He never played the lottery. He played the long game. He invested consistently. He lived simply. And most importantly, he thought long term. He didn't just plan for retirement, he planned for possibility. We are constantly bombarded with messages designed to separate us from our money. Buy now, pay later. Treat yourself. You deserve it. But let's get honest. What do you really deserve? Do you deserve momentary pleasure at the cost of lasting peace? Do you deserve the high of consumption followed by the low of regret? Or do you deserve the freedom to breathe, to choose, to invest in your future instead of paying for your past? Controlling your money doesn't mean being cheap. It means being intentional. It means telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. It's the difference between stress and strategy, between chaos and control, between surviving and thriving. And it starts small. It starts with the decision to look, not flinch, not avoid, not lie to yourself, but really look. Open up your bank statements. Track your expenses. You're not judging yourself. You're learning. You're taking inventory. You're waking up. From there, build habits that serve you. Set a budget, not as a cage, but as a compass. Automate your savings. Invest in what grows, not what depreciates. Create an emergency fund, not because you're paranoid, but because you're smart. Life is unpredictable, but you don't have to be unprepared. We don't rise to the level of our dreams, we fall to the level of our systems. And your financial system is either working for you or against you. The difference isn't in your income, it's in your discipline. It's in the daily choices you make when no one is watching. It's in the silent, boring, consistent work of being responsible, even when it's not fun. Because here's the truth, freedom isn't found in impulse, it's found in restraint. It's found in the ability to say not now, so that one day you can say now I can. It's found in the power to walk into opportunity without hesitation. Imagine being able to say yes to the trip, yes to the business idea, yes to walking away from a toxic job, not because the timing was perfect, but because your finances were. That's real power. That's what financial control gives you. It gives you space. It gives you peace. It gives you options. And when you're not stressed about money, you show up differently in the world. You're more generous, more focused, more present. You're not constantly distracted by the weight of what you owe or the pressure of living paycheck to paycheck. You're free to think bigger, to dream wider, to give more. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by your finances, start simple. Start with $1. Track it, know where it went. Ask yourself if it aligned with who you want to be. And then do that again and again until clarity replaces confusion, until control replaces chaos. Money's not the goal. Freedom is, control is, peace is. But money is the tool. It's the leverage. And it responds to intention. Not income, not inheritance, intention. The world may never stop trying to take your money, but you get to decide who wins that battle. You get to choose whether your money is a source of stress or a source of strength. And you don't need $1 million to make that choice. You need a mindset. You need a mission. You need to believe that you are capable of mastering your finances, even if no one ever taught you how. Because when you learn to control your money, you learn to control your life. You walk taller, you breathe deeper, you stop living in fear and start living in freedom, not because life is easy, but because you are equipped. And that is a kind of wealth no paycheck can buy. Control is often portrayed as a solitary pursuit. We talk about discipline like it lives in a vacuum, as if willpower alone can carry us through every challenge. But control, true control, is never isolated. It breathes in the air around us. It pulses through the people who share our space, our time, our conversations. You want to understand what's shaping your life? Start by looking at your circle, because who you're with is quietly sculpting who you become. It's easy to ignore. It's comfortable to believe we are immune to influence, that we can rise above, be different, think independently. But human nature resists isolation. We're wired for connection. And with connection comes exposure. Exposure to thoughts, to attitudes, to behaviors. And over time, those exposures compound. You don't become a pessimist overnight. You don't suddenly snap into bitterness or drift into mediocrity. It happens subtly, drip by drip, conversation by conversation, until one day you wake up and realize you've become like the people around you. Your words don't sound like yours anymore. They sound like theirs. Your thoughts, once bold and focused, now echo their doubts, their sarcasm, their excuses. Your ambition, your discipline, your joy, it either multiplies or dissolves in the company you keep. We've all felt it. You're in a room full of gossip and you feel the tug, the pressure to chime in, to belong. Or you're surrounded by people who roll their eyes at hard work and suddenly your own efforts feel naive. But put yourself in a circle where people talk about ideas, not people, where growth is the baseline, not the exception, and everything shifts. Your vision gets clearer. Your energy feels lighter. You speak with more intention. You move with more purpose. We often talk about our habits like they are choices made in private. But most of our habits are social. You eat like your friends, you spend like your peers, you prioritize what your environment celebrates. That's not weakness, that's psychology, that's biology. And that's exactly why you have to be deliberate, ruthlessly deliberate about who's in your life. This doesn't mean you cut off everyone who's struggling. This isn't about ego. This is about elevation, about stewardship of your potential. Think of your environment like soil. You can be the best seed in the world, packed with potential, full of promise, but if you're planted in toxic soil, you won't grow. You'll survive, maybe, but you won't thrive. On the flip side, rich soil doesn't just help you grow, it challenges you to grow faster. Surround yourself with people who talk about goals, not gossip, who remind you of your power, not your problems, who don't just clap when you win, but also call you out when you drift. That's love, that's leadership, that's a circle worth building. People often resist this. They say, but I've known them for years, or their family. But longevity doesn't equal alignment. Just because someone's been in your life a long time doesn't mean they deserve to stay at the center of it. Love people, yes. Be kind, always. But be selective about access. Your peace, your purpose, your power, they're too valuable to place in careless hands. Take a moment and ask yourself, who in your life makes you feel small? Who drains your energy? Who discourages your dreams? And then ask, who challenges you? Who stretches your thinking? Who lifts your standards just by the way they live? These aren't abstract questions. Your answers shape your trajectory. There are people who make you feel like you're too much when really they're just not enough. And there are people who make you realize you haven't even scratched the surface of who you can be. Seek those people, build with them, learn from them. We don't control the world, we don't control the economy, we don't even control the weather, but we do control our proximity. We choose who we invite into our inner world. That's not a passive choice. That's one of the most powerful decisions you make every day. Who gets your energy? Who gets your time? Who gets your ears? Sometimes the greatest transformation comes not from trying harder, but from changing your environment. A smoker who wants to quit doesn't do it by hanging out in smoking lounges. An entrepreneur who wants to grow doesn't spend every night with people who mock ambition. We mirror what we're near. The science backs this up. Studies show that our behaviors, whether it's eating healthy, saving money, or even how much we exercise, are profoundly influenced by our social network. If your closest friends gain weight, your odds of gaining weight increase. If your closest friends divorce, your own marriage is statistically more at risk. But the reverse is also true. Want to be more disciplined? Get around people who value discipline. Want to speak with more integrity? Surround yourself with people who hold truth as sacred. Because here's what's beautiful. The right circle doesn't just hold you accountable. They hold a mirror up to your potential. They remind you who you are on the days you forget. They speak life into your silence. They believe in your vision even when it's blurry. They don't just want to see you succeed. They expect you to. not from pressure, but from deep, unwavering belief. You'll know you're in the right circle when you leave conversations more focused, not more scattered, more energized, not more drained, more confident, not more insecure. And sometimes the right circle isn't the loudest, it's not the biggest, it might just be 2 or 3 people, but they're aligned, authentic, and all in on growth. So look around, audit your circle, not with judgment, but with clarity. Because your circle isn't just a reflection of who you are, it's a prophecy of who you are becoming. You want to rise? Tighten your circle. You want to evolve? Elevate your environment. Because in the end, the life you build will echo the voices you chose to keep close. Make those voices count. Make them reflect your future, not your fears. Because when your circle aligns with your purpose, you don't just control your environment, you ignite it. Life has a habit of catching us off guard. It doesn't consult our calendars or ask for permission before it throws its hardest punches. One day everything feels aligned, and the next you're grappling with news you never expected, consequences you didn't cause, or chaos you can't control. But here's the truth we all eventually face. We don't always get to choose what happens to us. We do, however, get to choose how we respond. And in that response lies our greatest power. We spend so much of our energy trying to prevent, predict, or avoid adversity. We build routines to keep life predictable, relationships to keep us secure, and plans to create stability. But even the best strategy can be blindsided. Even the most well-intentioned people can let us down, and even the strongest among us can feel completely undone by the weight of something unexpected. But here's the paradox. Strength isn't about shielding ourselves from hardship, it's about how we respond when it comes. There's a space between what happens to us and what we do next. That space is our power. Most people react without even realizing it. Something upsets them and they explode. Something disappoints them and they withdraw. Something threatens them and they lash out. But in doing so, they give away the one thing they actually can control: their response. The moment you let the world dictate your reaction, you surrender your power. The moment you decide to pause, breathe, and choose, no matter how hard it is, you reclaim that power. Imagine you're driving and someone cuts you off in traffic. It's a tiny moment, but you feel your blood pressure rise, your fists clench, your voice ready to curse. That's your first instinct, automatic, emotional. But if you hit the brakes, not just on your car, but on your impulse, something else becomes possible. You can choose calm over chaos, grace over grudge, control over collision. It's not about being passive, it's about being deliberate. Some of the wisest people in history faced unimaginable pain and loss, yet came out more composed, not less. Viktor Frankl, a man stripped of everything during the Holocaust, still held tightly to one thing: his ability to choose his attitude. That's the kind of control that can't be taken by force or broken by pain. It's the control of your own response. And it's more powerful than most people realize. Consider someone who's been betrayed by a close friend. The instinct might be vengeance or bitterness. But what if instead of reacting in anger, they chose to set a boundary, grieve the loss, and move forward with self-respect? They haven't ignored the pain. They've just refused to let the pain dictate who they become. That's the difference. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. Think about your own life. Think about the last time something didn't go your way. Maybe you lost an opportunity, received harsh criticism, or faced rejection. What did you do with that moment? Did you let it define you, or did you define yourself in it? The greatest leaders, the most resilient people, and the most inspiring figures in history didn't have perfect circumstances. They had practiced responses. They had trained themselves over and over again to pause in the face of pressure and choose who they wanted to be. That's the kind of control that elevates you. It doesn't just protect your peace, it shapes your character. Because how you respond to life reveals more about you than any talent, degree, or achievement ever will. Anyone can look good when things are going right. But who are you when everything is going wrong? Who are you when no one is watching? That's where your character is either forged or forgotten. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to remain kind when someone is cruel. It's hard to stay calm when you're being provoked. It's hard to act with integrity when you feel betrayed. But that's why it's meaningful. Because every time you choose your response instead of reacting on autopilot, You become stronger, you become more grounded, you become someone others can count on, not because life is easy, but because you've done the hard work of choosing control. Think of an athlete in the final moments of a close game. The pressure is intense, the crowd is screaming, and their body is on the edge of collapse. But the ones who succeed are not the ones who panic. They're the ones who have trained their minds to stay focused under pressure. It's not the absence of pressure that makes them great, it's their response to it. The same is true for you. Whether you're a parent navigating a tough conversation with your child, an entrepreneur facing a failing business, or simply someone trying to stay kind in an unkind world, your response is your power. And it's not a one-time decision, it's a habit, a discipline, a choice made again and again until it becomes part of who you are. So next time life hits you, because it will, pause, step back, ask yourself, what would the best version of me do right now? Not the version that's tired or hurt or angry, the version that's wise, the version that leads, the version that's in control. Then do that, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard, because that's where real strength lives, not in controlling the world, but in mastering yourself. You don't need to control everything to feel empowered. You just need to control one thing, your response. And when you do, no storm can shake you, no loss can break you, and no person, no matter how cruel, can define you, because you've already defined yourself. So control your mouth, because your words create your world. Control your mind, because thoughts shape destiny. Control your mood, because emotion without discipline is chaos. Control your money, because financial freedom starts with daily choices. Control your circle, because your environment either builds or breaks you. Control your response, because power isn't in control, it's in character. Control is not about domination. It's about discipline. It's not about being rigid, it's about being rooted. And the most powerful people you'll ever meet, they're not the loudest in the room, they're the most controlled within themselves. Now it's your turn.